The Goliath Truck and the Goliath Rockgrinder are the hardy and reliable transports of the Genestealer Cult. But in 10th edition, are they too expensive? Hello there and welcome to Purple Lake Games, where today we're looking at Genestealer Cult, Goliath Trucks and Goliath Rockgrinders in a little bit more detail. So since the 10th edition index dropped and then the week later, or however days later it was, the points dropped, I was really looking into this and thinking, well, characters are cheap, some of the sort of infantry, some of them are reasonable price, some of them seem to be on the expensive side, but the transport seemed very expensive. So why are Goliath Trucks 110 points and Rockgrinders 155 points? That's a lot of points for transports. Well, let's dive in and have a look. So here's the Goliath Trucks. They have movement 12, toughness 10, 3+ save, good, 10 wounds, leadership of 7+, and an objective control of 2+. So the same as one infantry person standing there, really, or one battle line, should I say, in this edition. Weaponry, heavy stubber, which is, it's okay. It's okay, anti-infantry. A twin autocannon, which doesn't get as many shots as it used to, but its strength is higher, it's strength 9. It's AP -1, which I think the same as it was before, but damage 3. Also, it's now twin linked, so they get 3 raw wounds. The demolition catch is quite a big one. It's only got a 6-inch range, but D6 plus 3 attacks. It's blast, so an extra attack per 5 members of the squad you're shooting at. It's hazardous, so chance to take some damage. It's also assault, so you can advance into it as well, which is great. Strength 12, 8 -2, damage 2. Yeah, it's nasty. It's a dead command like most do. A firing deck of 12+, it can transport 12 models, so basic unit of 10 and a leader and a supporting leader. So you can have your, for instance, your Icon Ward and your Locust in there, for instance, alongside 10 neophytes or acolytes. So it's very accommodating. Now its rule, fire support. In a shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy unit it scored 1 or more hits against this phase, so you can't split attacks and have multiple. Once the end of this phase, each time a friendly model that disadvantage transport makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, you can reroll the wound. So essentially, anything you manage to hit, you disembarks, gets 3 raw wounds into that unit, or one of the units you shot. There's a choice. It'd be even better if it's a unit you shot at and it wasn't just this phase. So you could charge in and get reroll to wound in combat. That'd be awesome, but probably a bit too lethal. But it's 110 points. I'm not 100% sure where that comes from. Now, an issue with Goliath Trucks, and probably most dedicated transports there is we're in very much a bit of a tank meta at the moment. So you've got a lot of tanks and strong vehicles and strong walkers with toughness 10+, up to toughness 13s, even some 14s. And so you have a lot of anti-attack weapons which are a minimum of strength 12. Strength 12 gets through this in a 3+. A lot of them can do quite a lot of damage. A standard mining laser that the Cult can have is D6 +1. A couple of those hitting could take out a transport. But most big anti-tank weapons do 12 damage. That's this gone in one hit. I think that makes transports in general, and the Goliath Truck being one of these, quite vulnerable in 10th edition. But we're going to have a look at a couple of other transports and just see how they compare. So yeah, we're going to have a look at the Chimera now. So this is the Imperial Guard's dedicated transport. That's movement 10, so a bit lower. Toughness now is the same 3+ save. More extra wound, so 11 wounds. Same leadership and the same objective control. So very similar stat line. Now it has a lot more choice in weapons. The Chimera can't have all this, but it has a huge choice of weapons, mostly anti-infantry weapons, which the Goliath truck at least gets a mixture of anti-infantry and sort of anti-lethal, light tank weaponry. So they are very similar. Its ability is good for giving orders. So there's quite a similar amount. You see, maybe the Goliath truck is a little bit on top of this, but not a lot more. The demolition catch medium will put it over there, and it's a bit faster. So Goliath truck is 110 points. The Chimera is only 85 points. 25 points cheaper. I'm not sure why. It has more wounds, it has a little bit more durability. A damaged 12 anti-tank killing weapon is going to take it out, and with guard you're going to be targeting the Lehman Russes more with that. You don't really have that with Cult. You might take your Rockgrinder out first, and they may take your Rockgrinders out over your truck, but the truck's be hyped in the list of just taking out, because what else is there to shoot at? You don't have Lehman Russ and Rogaldorns and Baneblades to shoot at. So I'm not quite sure why it's this much more expensive. Firing deck, however, is only 2, but they do have the Lasgun array, which sort of makes up for that. That could be another balancing point, but overall I'm not sure why the Chimera is so much cheaper. Moving on, we're going to have a look at the Rhino. So the Rhino's movement 12, which is the same. Toughness 9, which is the same. 3+ save, the same. 10 wounds, the same. Leadership +6, which is slightly better. Objective control 2, the same. So the stats, very much the same as the Goliath truck. Now in terms of weapons, you get a 100 killer missile and a Stormbolter. So yeah, hands down, you have a much better array of weaponry with the Goliath truck. With this you get self-repair, which gives it a bit of extra durability. It's still going to get popped with an anti-tank weapon of a high damage. And you get to use the oath of the moment. Again, not great with the transport. And the Rhino, like the Chimera, is 85 points. Now you would expect the truck to be more expensive because its weaponry is better than the Rhino. But 25 points more expensive? Really? If I had a choice of a Rhino or a Goliath truck, I'd be tempted to take the Rhino, just because of the cheap value of just getting your troops forward. The weaponry is just a bonus. I mean, the demolition clash is brilliant, but in terms of functionality, you'd probably go for a Rhino. So to give you an idea of something with a bit extra firepower, look at a Razorback. Again, the stats are the same as the Rhino, but it's got a little bit more firepower. This is 100 points. Doesn't have a firing deck, which obviously the truck does. It has a very similar sort of firing rule. This is 100 points, so 10 points cheaper. Now this gives us a bit of an indication that the war gear, the range weaponry, the better the range weaponry, the more high the price of the dedicated transport, or the transport. So the Razorback, you're putting in a twin-linked heavy bolter or a twin-linked las cannon, and all of a sudden you're paying 100 points. So it's only 10 points cheaper. It's still cheaper than a truck. Let's say this is a truck, the standard transport in a Cult army, which lost its rugged vehicle ability compared to 9th. So it's lost durability, and here it is more expensive than a Razorback, which comparable weaponry, comparable stats, comparable abilities, although it has a better firing deck. So let's have a quick look at how much people you can carry in this. So you can carry 6, so it has a better capacity as well. This is sort of an in-between of the Rockgrinder and the Goliath truck, but it's cheaper than both, and a lot cheaper than the Goliath truck, which is the Goliath Rockgrinder, 155 points. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Drukhari. Now, I know Drukhari are not the force they once were, and in 10th edition they don't appear to be that much of a force, sort of lower middling at the moment, early days. But Raiders are still seen as very good transports. So let's have a look. Movement 8, movement 14. much higher than the movement 12, at least 2 inches higher. Toughness 8, so you've dropped 1 in toughness. Save 4 plus, slightly lower save. 10 wounds, same, better leadership by 1, and the same objective control, which is standard for transports. This, however, has the fly ability, so the fly keyword. This has the fly keyword, so it's not as bogged down with obstacles, nowhere near as bogged down with obstacles as the Goliath Truck, and it's faster. It's a little bit less durable at this point. Now, in terms of weaponry, it's got Darklands and Disintegrator Cannon, which are very good and comparable, if not better, than what you can put on a Goliath Truck. They were 36 in range. They can carry 11 models, they have a firing deck of 11, so very similar. They get the faction power of pain, which you do not get with the Goliath Truck, and they get to deep strike. And they also, when they advance 6 inches, not D6, which again is a great rule and makes it so much faster. And an invulnerable save of 6 plus, a bit more durability, something you wouldn't even get with a Goliath Truck. Now, how much do you think the Raider costs? 90 points. So it's only 5 points more expensive than a Rhino, despite the speed. Or it's got better weaponry, they can do a lot more, and it's only got 1 less toughness and a slightly worse save. And again, it's got much more than the Goliath Truck, and yet it's 90 points. Why is the Raider 20 points cheaper than the Goliath Truck? I don't know. Only thing I can think of is that demolition cash is what puts the points value really high on the Goliath Truck. So moving on from the Goliath Truck, we've got the Rockgrinder. Now this has a movement of 12 inches, toughness 10, so it's 1 better than the Goliath Truck. It's good toughness, more durability, 3 for save, 10 wounds, leadership 7 plus, and objective control 3, so it's quite high for what it is, but it's a bit more of an aggressive vehicle. It's still a transport. In terms of Genestealer Cults, it's probably the most offensive vehicle you're going to get, and it's pretty cool. You get some great range weaponry. You get a clearance incinerator, which is great for flimming away your light infantry. You get that demolition cache, again really good at taking out harder things like strength 12 and damage 2. You get the mining laser, or a seismic cannon, good at taking out either your tanks or your more elite infantry. And a heavy stubber, which is, it's a heavy stubber. They're okay. In melee, this thing shines because it has that dozer blade, which has sustained hits 1, which is always good having explosion at 6s, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 10, -2, damage 2. I mean, combining that with the tank shock stratagem, wow, gets better. So it also has the grinding clearance. Each time this model ends a charge move, select 1 enemy unit with engagement range, roll 66 and 4 plus, they suffer mortal wound. Then you get to do tank shock on them for 1 CP. More mortal wounds. Then you get to attack them and you get exploding 6s. This is pretty good in combat, and this is a truck. This is not a walker. This is not some Brutalis Dreadnought with its big claws, or some killer can with a big chainsaw thing. It's a truck with a big dozer blade in the front. It has a firing deck of 6, it can transport 6. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I think this Rockgrinder is fantastic. But it's 155 points. Now, what else is 155 points that we can compare this to? Sort of. So this is also 155 points. The Gladiator Reaper. So it's also movement 10. It is toughness 10. The same saves as the boss. It has more wounds. It has 12 wounds. Again, any tank, I suppose, can take it out in one go, possibly. Leadership 6 plus, so it's better leadership and the same objective control. Now, look at those range weapons. There's an array of them. From Icarus rocket pods, which good strength, okay AP, but -1's okay. Damage 2, but also very good against flyers. You've got the heavy stubber, which is an improved heavy stubber, I suppose. Isn't it? You have a Tempest Bolter, less range, but 4 attacks, strength 4 -1, and then the twin-linked onslaught Gatling cannon, which, as a rule, rotated death gets sustained hits 2 of fighting infantry. So this thing is going to chew through infantry. So 12 attacks with 2 hits for every 6 you get. It's twin-linked, it has devastating wounds, so you're going to get a ton of mortal wounds against things. This thing is essentially that Gatling cannon is twice as good as the Dozer blade, but obviously it's at range, therefore it's much better, because you've always got to have shooting trumping combat, because combat you've got to actually get there. Unless a unit is very quick and can combat very quickly, it's a sit and duck to shooting for a bit. There's ways of protecting, but generally. So shooting is always trumps combat, and so it should be. It's a futuristic game with lots of guns. Big guns. Lots of big guns. So this is 155 points, as is the Rockgrinder. Obviously the Rockgrinder knocks out of the water with melee attacks, but not with range weapons. So why are they both 155 points? I think this is good for 155 points. But the Rockgrinder, compared to this, feels expensive. Now the other gladiator variant, which is the Valiant, again it gets very similar weapons, but rather than that Gatling cannon, it has the twin Las Talon, which is twin linked. Well, it's 2 attacks, but it's strength 10, -3, and does d6 +1, so it's going to start popping things. This is your anti-tank, anti-monster, anti-elite infantry, and it gets to +1 to hit when attacking with that weapon against monsters or vehicles. So this is your vehicle destroyer, your monster car destroyer. And it's going to do pretty well with those 2 attacks. It's more or less going to hit, isn't it? If you get hit on 2s. So, and this has also the stubber. It has multi-melters as well. Okay, they're only short range, but it has them as well as the rocket pods. So we're good against anti-flying. Obviously, stat line is the same as the other gladiator variant, so more wounds than the Rockgrinder. So again, the other thing I haven't mentioned is neither of the Goliath vehicles get the smoke keyword. They can't protect themselves. Whereas the Chimera, the Rhino, and these gladiators and the Razorback all get the smoke keyword. So why? Why is the Rockgrinder the same cost as the gladiators? Look at these gladiators, and these I think are pretty good for 155 points. And the Rockgrinder should be more around the 120 mark. So just to sum up then, are Goliath expensive? Well, yes they are. When we look at the comparisons with the Goliath truck with the Rhino, the Chimera, the Razorback and the Raider, these are all cheaper. Especially looking at that Raider, what that can do, how quick it can move, and it's 90 points, 20 points cheaper. It looks like the Goliath truck is overcosted, 110 points, and it seems that a lot of the cost is put on how good the cache of demolition charges is, which is great. It is a very strong weapon. It's only got a 6-inch range, so although it's strong, it's not going to win games when you're not getting close. Also, the Goliath truck's main function is to get combat units, and let's face it, Genestealer Cult combat units are generally very squishy, and with the deep strike being 9 inches, you're going to have to use things like transport to get things closer. You can't just rely on deep striking and get a charge in. At 8 inches, in the previous edition, you're more likely to drop in and charge. Also, you could include the icon mode and do an action to try and get that extra inch, so a 7-inch charge. But with the 9-inch charge, you're not going to get in deep strike, or at least you're very unlikely. You can't rely on it. Things like transports you can turn to. I've always used trucks through the editions that they've been out. They're good, but 110 points, especially compared to the Raiders 90, seems a bit expensive. Same for the Rockgrinder, but I think less so because the amount of mortal wounds I can put out. But compared to the Gladiator variants, especially that Reaper, which can put out a lot of devastating wounds from its Gatling cannon, that's the same cost. I would say if you had a choice of which one you could take, you'd take the Gladiator variant over the Rockgrinder, because you can do it at range. You don't have to be running forward, although the Gladiator has the benefit of at least you can put your 6 models in, so it's great for aberrant units or small units of acolytes when they have characters in. But 155 points, bear in mind it is essentially a slightly better Razorback, which is 100 points. Again, I think it's overcosted, it should be cheaper. I think they both should be cheaper. But then again, you do need to use transports because Genestealer Cults are squishy. So you're more or less going to have to take them to try and get stuff forward. And they're not bad. They're not bad models and they're not got awful rules. They're very usable, they're very good. But they just feel a bit too expensive points wise. They really do. So what do you think? Am I talking a lot of tripe? Are they actually costed quite well? I mean, you're going to have to take that convincing me when a Raider's only 90 points and a Goliath truck is 110 points. Like I said, the Rockgrinder is probably more reasonable, 155. Still expensive though. Tell me what you think. Are they in your lists? Or do you think they're too expensive and you've found other ways to get Cult in closer? Leave a comment, tell me what you think. Do you use dedicated transports? And are your transports cheaper than the Goliath trucks? Are they overcosted? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye for now.